All right, looks like we're a minute past the hour, so I'm going to go ahead and kick things off. Thank you and welcome to. Thank you for joining and thank you for being here today. My name is Michael Roberts. This is a SPK webinar entitled "Enhancing DevOps Success with Bitbucket and Jira." I'm the Vice President of Sales and Marketing here at SPK, and we do have a really good webinar for you today. As a reminder, all attendees will be muted when you're joining. If you have any questions during the event, feel free to add them in real time to the Q&A section of Zoom or in the live chat. We actually do have folks that are manning the chat. If you could use one of those two areas to ask your questions, we'll make sure that Darla and I, at the end, we address them or potentially address them live in the presentation itself. So with that, I want to set the stage a little bit because with the expectation that not everybody in the audience will have a full understanding of the technologies being used here today. Maybe you haven't used Jira and Bitbucket. So what if I told you that you needed to use a sword to butter your dinner roll? Or better even yet, what if I told you you had to put a blindfold on and walk through a maze of more than 50 yards to find your way down a staircase without falling? Or maybe if I gave you a gaming setup and said that you needed to play a game but couldn't touch the controller. Well, in short, that's what businesses do every day when it comes to developing software. Many of the development teams are struggling with fragmented tool chains, limited visibility across software delivery lifecycles, and inefficient handoffs between planning and development and deployment. And these silos create delays, reduce collaboration, and make it really difficult for people to improve DevOps performance. Without an integrated approach and understanding the full life cycle, it's nearly impossible to achieve speed, reliability, and the agility that modern software teams really need to stay competitive. So that's really our aim today, is to help shed a little bit of light on those practices and the tools that are surrounding them. Again, my name is Michael Roberts. I'm here with Darla Cost. Darla, feel free to introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Darla Cost. I'm a DevOps consultant for SBK and Associates. I've been there just under a year now. I do a lot of work with all of the Git family, Bitbucket, GitLab, and GitHub. And I have a lot of experience in what we're about to talk about today. So excited to be here and get to know you all.
Thanks, Darla. So high level, these are generally the areas that we're going to talk through today. We're going to kind of do some foundational Git discussions and why Git-based workflows actually matter and help in the solution that we've talked about. We'll actually get a live look at Bitbucket in action, and we'll actually show some integrations of Bitbucket and Jira, which is why those two tools are important in that DevOps success. And then lastly, we'll talk about DORA metrics and how those DORA metrics can be actually utilized in Bitbucket and Jira. And then lastly, we'll have a question and answer session at the end. But again, feel free to add them to the chat or Q&A section of the Zoom chat during the presentation. So the rise of Git in modern software development has created a slew of new tools, including the one we'll talk about today, Bitbucket. But I'd like for our audience to first have a good foundational understanding of Git in the event that there's anybody coming from another world such as SVN. So Darla, can you give us a little background on Git as a platform and a technology solution?
Sure, Michael. So Git has really revolutionized software development, a really robust framework for managing code versions in development projects, which is something that we've not always had. And its distributed nature really lets us have full transparency in our modification history. It allows us to have full backup capabilities so you can see everything that's been done. And that just ensures that every part of the coding process is monitored, retrievable, and makes it a really invaluable tool. Not just for developers to manage their code and collaborate without overriding other people's work, but also for managers and teams to keep projects on track and maintain that really high quality output. The history of Git underscores its foundational goal. So you want to support speed and simplicity in managing large code repositories, and you want to be efficient. Its adoption has been really widespread across a lot of different industries, and that signifies its effectiveness. allowing even the largest teams to manage complex projects with ease. Git's ability to handle branches and merge them in has become a really critical part of adopting DevOps practices. And it supports that continuous integration, continuous delivery, and allows it to integrate with a lot of different automation tools, which we'll touch on in this webinar. So that capability has really made Git a centralized component of both open source and enterprise environments, emphasizing the universal need for effective version control systems in today's landscapes for sure. So here we're going to go over some benefits of Git-based workflows. Git-based workflows are really fundamental in your modern software development, especially when you're trying to facilitate like just a really collaborative and dynamic working environment. So by implementing branching strategies and merge requests for either small or large feature additions, teams are not only going to work better and more cohesively, but they're also going to make sure that every single piece of code is scrutinized properly and that it's optimized before it's actually put into integration. This aspect of collaboration is really crucial in a remote or distributed team setting as it provides a really structured approach to managing contributions and changes, which you don't always get without this kind of tool. The adoption of Git really boosts the quality and the reliability of code as well, just because you've got really rigorous peer reviews, you've got merge checks, and a lot of processes in place that are essential for just maintaining a very high standard of code health. They're going to encourage developers to be more critical when they're evaluating their work or each other's work, and they're going to have that continuous integration and keep going every single day. And moreover, the traceability and the auditability provided by Git ensures that any changes made to the code base are really transparent for everybody who's involved, and it holds people accountable, which is really invaluable in regulated industries or in projects where security and accuracy are very important. And then Git's seamless integration with CI/CD pipelines also really accelerates the development cycle, and it minimizes the risk associated with deploying to production, which makes it a really indispensable tool for teams when they're aiming to achieve really excellence in DevOps practices. So challenges in traditional workflows. So traditional workflows, and when I say that, we're talking about those managed through systems like SVN, they present really significant challenges, especially as the scale and the complexity of development products increase and get higher. One of the fundamental drawbacks is that their centralized nature poses a risk, not just with like a single point of failure, but also limits operation speeds. Developers have to constantly interact with the central server, which is obviously not ideal. And that setup can really slow down development processes, especially if you have a larger team or a project with a really extensive history. Git is going to address a lot of those inefficiencies just because it's got distributed architecture. So each developer is going to work with a complete repository, carbon copies of each other until they make changes, which really mitigates the risks associated with central server failures and enables a lot faster processing since most operations are going to be performed locally and then put into the project at a later date. So that not only enhances performance, but it also improves the developer's ability to manage merge conflicts and branch out freely and gives a lot of flexibility and scalability that developments need to really maintain that high efficiency and productivity, even as their products grow or they get more complex. And just makes Git a really essential tool in any kind of modern software development environment. So we've got a couple of memes for you guys here. Not only do us DevOps people like to laugh at our own misery or disasters, but we also love to work with others that enjoy laughing because sometimes, that's all you can do. Git's integration with DevOps practices really represents a paradigm shift in how development operation teams collaborate and operate. And when we're underpinning a really robust DevOps strategy, Git is going to enhance those operational efficiencies, but it's also going to make sure that teams can iterate on and they can deliver software at a really, really good pace. The inherent functionalities of Git, like branching or merging, along with that seamless compatibility with the CI/CD tools, really allow for a continuous integration and that continuous deployment pipeline that's really efficient and really reliable, far more than the human would be.
But nobody ever has done a get push force before, right? And not had a little bit of a pucker when they do it. So your memes are spot on here. Thanks, Darla. So I think we've laid a little bit of the foundation for what conversation we'll have in regards to Bitbucket. So Darla, let's jump into a little bit more about Bitbucket so we can see those concepts in action.
Sure. So a lot of people think of Bitbucket as just a strict source control tool, and it's really not. It's a really comprehensive solution, and it integrates really deeply with the development workflows that you're already going to have, especially if your team is already using other Atlassian products like Jira. We're going to talk about that in a little bit, but first, a little bit about Bitbucket's backstory. So it was actually invented by 2008 by Jesper Noir, but was acquired in 2010 by Atlassian. And it's evolved a lot since then. You've got a feature called Bitbucket Pipelines, which we're going to go over later as well. And that gives users the ability to build, test, deploy code directly from Bitbucket. Diving into some of the features that development teams like the most, Bitbucket's core capability is definitely around code collaboration. So it facilitates a really highly collaborative coding environment, which we already talked about is very important for team members, just because it enables them to discuss changes, to review code that's in pull requests, manage access with detailed branch permissions, all those good things. And those features really ensure that every single team member is on the same page and that that code quality is maintained without sacrificing any kind of security. So moving on to integrated CI/CD, Bitbucket comes with built-in CI/CD capabilities. Like I said, they're known as Bitbucket pipelines. And that feature allows you to automate your builds, your tests, your deployments right in the same environment where your code is already living. And that simplifies the process a lot by removing the need for, an additional CI/CD tool and streamlines your deployment pipeline a lot, making it really fast, more reliable, and more secure. Um, Speaking of code security, Bitbucket actually provides really robust security features like branch permissions, which are going to help you control who can push or merge with your branches. It also supports some IP whitelisting to ensure that only authorized users can access your repositories, and that helps safeguard your code from any other authorized changes or any issues in that area. Bitbucket's also really scalable, built to scale with your team from small startups to larger enterprises, and supports unlimited private repositories and maintains a lot of performance and manageability that you're not going to get with other tools. Now, Atlassian actually has two versions of Bitbucket. Bitbucket Cloud is their SaaS tool. This is really ideal for teams that are seeking a quick setup and super easy scalability without having the hassle of actually having to manage your infrastructure. The updates are automatic. You've got seamless integration with other Atlassian cloud products like Jira, and it eliminates the need for any kind of hardware maintenance. In contrast, Bitbucket Data Center is the on-prem solution that they have, and it's suitable for organizations who, if they're requiring more control over their data and their system configurations, like if you're have really strict compliance or security requirements, if you're air-gapped or whatever it is, that self-hosted option really supports high availability and it's optimized for performance at scale. And that caters to larger enterprises typically. When you're completing a migration from data center to cloud, as discussed, I think by Ed and Michael in that video, it's really crucial to assess factors like compliance or customization needs, your tool integration, your strategies, just so you can ensure that the transition not only meets technical requirements, but also aligns with your broader organization tools, which are two things that don't always go hand in hand. But when they do, they facilitate a really smooth transformation in team operations and in workflows. And we've included a QR code here, I think. So that video, you can actually look at that video and hear some of the considerations if you're trying to go towards on-prem and you need to eventually migrate to a cloud version. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is jump into a demonstration of Bitbucket to show some important features. So it's going to play and I'm just going to kind of talk over it and talk you guys through what it's doing. Okay, so we're going to look at a Bitbucket repository with a working CI/CD pipeline with Bitbucket pipelines. We're going to take a look at how to build, test, deploy, and how that automation works in Bitbucket, touch on some security integrations, etc. So as you can see, we're in our source code right now. You can look at the left menu and you can see your commits, your branches, your pull requests, all those good things. So right now we are going to have, let it slow down. We are going to have two branches on this repository, our main and then one that has been created. That one's actually linked to a Jira issue, which we're going to go into a little bit more in the next demonstration. But for now, we're going to stick with the main branch. So this is our demonstration Bitbucket pipelines.yaml file. We are using an Atlassian base image right now. You could use whatever you wanted, whether that's a custom Docker image, a Python image, whatever you need for your project. Right now, we're running 3 steps in parallel. So we've got our build and test, our code linting, and we've got our security scan. After that, our deployment is set to go to staging automatically, and then we're actually going to have a manual trigger for production, so it doesn't automatically go that way, which I'm going to show you guys in just a second too. Typically, when you're editing, you're going to use VS Code or Source Tree or whatever it is, but you can edit directly in Bitbucket. We don't always recommend that. It's usually a lot easier if you're on your own branch in your favorite code editor. But before we go over to pipelines, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to run a pipeline just to show you really quick what this does. So as you can see, you can select your branch and then you can select whatever pipeline it is. We've just got our default option right now. I'm going to go ahead and let that run through all the steps. Running these steps in parallel actually helps speed up some feedback for developers and helps catch, bugs or vulnerabilities really early. It's just doing everything at the same time. These steps are just placeholders, but in a real project, they could run, your test suite, your code style checks, your security audits, whatever it is that you need. So in a second, we're going to show some security scan tips. We're going to go over to our security tab right here while that pipeline is running. And hopefully that'll go over in just a second, but we're going to show how you could integrate really any kind of tool that you wanted. I believe that SNCC is going to be right there in just a second, but Sonar Cloud would really work too. We've got an in-depth solution for Sonar Cloud a little bit later. But anything that you wanted to use, there it is, there's SNCC. So anything you wanted to use to provide static code analysis or detect code smells or vulnerabilities or whatever it is, you could integrate really seamlessly with this. And integrating it is usually pretty simple. A couple of CLI commands in that YAML file, and it's going to probably analyze your code really, really well. Usually if you have Sonar Cloud or another third-party tool, then it's going to go over and show you the results there, but it's easy to integrate. Okay, so let's go back over. We're going to check on our pipeline. Still in progress, done our build and test, done our lint, our security scan. So right now it's deploying to staging. Like I said, we have that manual trigger for production, and it just helps if someone wants to take, one last look before you deploy to production, or maybe you need to do it at a later date or a later time, and this was just prep. But once you're ready, you can go ahead and hit deploy. Hopefully that's going to go, and then we will hit deploy again. And this is going to simulate deploying to our actual production environment. This is a really good mix of automation and control manually, and that helps keep the pipeline pretty stable. It's, quick but safe, and it makes developers happy. Okay, so that's going, and hopefully we'll see some success in just a second. Now we're going to go back over to our security tab. As we already saw, you can integrate whatever it is that you need, but you could honestly do whatever else it is that you need. There's a lot of built-in security features to Bitbucket already. You can require two-factor authentication for all contribution. You can enforce that IP whitelisting, like we talked about earlier, to control security, and you can actually use branch restrictions to lock down whatever you're doing, which would be, if it's development or, access type, write access, whatever. We're going to go into the settings and show this really quick. Right now, you can see we have it set to everybody. Everybody has write access. Everybody can merge via pull requests. But you can go in here and you can click on only specific people or specific groups if you create those to have write access, admin access, etc. This is pretty customizable, but it is not as complicated or in-depth as rules for GitLab or GitHub, which some people would say is a negative, and sometimes it is if you really need to customize. But if you have something simple and you just want to, these people can go in and do this, these people can go in and do that, and you don't need to make it super complicated, this is a pretty good solution. And it just makes it easier to go in and set those security standards. Those layers are really going to help just ensure that only the right people can push and review or deploy code. And then it also helps with Bitbucket, supporting those compliance needs for your company. They enforce really traceable, repeatable workflows so you can control those deployments, enforce new code review rules, whatever it is that you need. So we're going to go back over, check on our pipeline, and it looks like it was successful, and we deployed to production. So that's a quick look at Bitbucket pipelines in action. Gives teams a really powerful way to automate and to deploy really securely and scale their software delivery.
Awesome. That was a lot in a very few minutes. So thank you for that, Darla. And I think we actually have another demo now that we're going to talk about with Jira and Bitbucket together. And now we did see Bitbucket in action, and I'm sure a lot of you in the audience have probably already seen and used Jira today. So it's not like we're demoing Jira here, I don't think. But I think it's good for people to see a normal workflow and how Atlassian has really integrated the two tools. So, Darla, can you walk us through a brief overview of Jira's role in issue tracking and planning, including maybe some benefits of the real-time visibility into deployments and development progress?
Absolutely. So this is going to be a second one. I'm going to walk you through a like a really end-to-end demo, and we're going to be able to see everything in action. Are we going ahead and starting? Okay.
Yep, go
So,
ahead.
all right. So we're going to start with a Jira ticket, and we're going to go all the way through a code commit and a deployment using Bitbucket pipelines. This is going to be a little bit complicated, but stay with me. Makes it a lot easier for everybody, and we can see how that automation keeps everything connected and traceable. All right, so we're going to go ahead and start in Jira. Here is a new issue. So this is going to be an example of a bug fix for the build process. As you can see, I've got a security scan fix example and a linting fix example as well, but we're going to focus on this one. So hopefully it's going to come up in a second, and we're actually going to walk through how to create and connect a branch and a commit in Bitbucket Cloud to make things easier. So as you can see, open the issue just like everybody's seen before, I'm sure. Over on the right, we've got that little create branch button. So we're going to go ahead and create a branch in Bitbucket Cloud. That repository can be whatever it is that you want it to be. I'm sure you'll have access to multiple. This is the type. For this one, we're going to do a bug fix. And then this is whatever branch you're taking from. We're going to use main, and then that's going to be the code. And we're going to hit create, and then it's going to go ahead and create that branch for us. All right, so we've seen this screen before just a second ago. We're going to go over here and we're going to see our source code, and then we're going to click on our branch. And from here, we should be able to edit the Bitbucket pipeline. So whatever we were going to need to do, we can go ahead and hit edit. As I said, you would normally be using a code editor, but for the sake of simplicity on this demo, we're just going to go in right here. So let's just pretend we're going to put in another command, just do an echo one to make it super simple. But you can go ahead and do whatever fixes it is that you need to do. Go ahead and hit commit. You can do a pull request for that change at that moment, but we're going to actually do that a little bit later. So we're going to walk through this commit and then go over to pipelines, and we have this set so that it's going to automatically start running on that branch. You can change that and set it so that it stops or it doesn't start until you manually trigger it. But we have this right here just to show what it's doing. It's in progress, running off through all the steps that we talked about in parallel. It's going to run through those build tests, that security scan, the linting examples, our fake little bug fix, and then the deployment to changing. Takes a while. And then we're going to go back over here, and you can actually see in the Jira issue that that branch was connected over here. And this is where you would see the pull request once we create it. So it's actually really nice that it does this pretty seamlessly. Helps us a lot just, for other people to be able to look at it and see what's going on. Okay, so that's still running. We're going to go ahead and deploy to production as we did before. Hit one more deployment. Now you could use, if you were using a sandbox or whatever it is for yours, you could use that as well. We're going to create our pull request now because we know that it's going to go through. In here, you'd put in whatever information it is that you need for your pull request, whatever your company requires. And then we're going to go ahead and hit create. You can delete the branch at this moment if you want to. We're going to leave it for the moment just in case, but if you're trying to create a really clean environment, that would be the way to go for sure. Now, normally you would not approve your own pull request, but for the sake of this demo, I'm going to approve and merge my own. And then we're going to see that this pipeline is going through. Waiting again. And then that pipeline is going to be done. So if we go back over here, we can actually see the pull request was already completed, and it's over in our Jira ticket, which is really nice. Makes it just a little bit easier for other people to look at what you're doing, whether you're working on small bug fixes, you're pushing new features, tracking hot fixes, whatever it is. Stakeholders are able to see what's in progress, and then they can see what's already finished, what's still waiting, and they don't have to actually bother the dev team for updates, which I know we all appreciate because we have enough to do. So that's a quick look at how Jira and Bitbucket work together, help automate and track your entire deployment lifecycle from ticket to commit to deployment, helps keep your teams aligned, speeds up that delivery, removes the guesswork from software releases. Great all around.
Thank you, Darla. That's really good stuff in a very short amount of time. And I would like to point out, yes, your point is awesome about you shouldn't be approving your own pull requests. Good to show in the demo, but even better point. So thank you for that. Now I want to switch gears a little bit from talking about the specific Atlassian tools to maybe backing up a little bit and talking about DORA metrics. And these metrics are from the DevOps research and assessment group that looks at important software release metrics, including things like deployment frequency, lead time to change failure rate, and a mean time to repair. And Darla, can you give us just at least a high level overview of what DORA is, and then how that maps to the actual actions in Bitbucket and Jira, and how you can capture those metrics and improve them?
Of course. Okay, so we're going to go over what it is at first. So like Michael said, it stands for DevOps Research and Assessment, really influential entity in the field of DevOps. Dora's conducted a really extensive research and surveys to help uncover some of the really key practices and capabilities that are going to drive high performance in any kind of organization. So their work is really pivotal for anyone looking to improve their strategies, provides a really solid empirical basis for understanding what works and what doesn't work in real world software development. So the four main metrics that Dora has identified are deployment frequency, lead time for changes, change failure rate, and mean time to recover. That first one is just going to measure how often an organization successfully releases to production. So high performers deploy more frequently with more speed and more stability. Lead time for changes is going to gauge the amount of time that it takes for each change to go from that very first code commit all the way to this code successfully running in production. Shorter lead times are going to be a sign of more agile and more responsive development processes. Change failure rate is going to refer to that percentage of changes to production or release environments that fail and require remediation. So a lower change failure rate indicates better quality control and higher reliability in the release mechanisms. Mean time to recover is going to just measure the time it takes for a team to recover from a failure in production. So faster recovery times means the team is more effective at addressing and resolving those issues really fast and just maintaining that service reliability. Understanding and improving these metrics can lead teams not just to, achieve better operational performance, but also to foster that environment of continuous improvement. We always want to make sure that we're taking a step further and we're doing better and doing more. And by integrating Jira and Bitbucket into your everyday practices, you're really going to measure and enhance these metrics and move closer to that high performance standard set by Dora's research that everybody wants. So Jira and Bitbucket, like I said, can be really instrumental in just measuring and improving the Dora metrics, and they're really crucial indicators of DevOps success. So by integrating these tools into our CI/CD pipeline, you can enhance both your development practices and your operational performance. So for deployment frequency with Jira, you can actually set up automation rules to transition issues automatically when that deployment is made. And that ensures your deployment frequency is accurately recorded, when exactly it's taken care of. And Bitbucket enhances this by enabling webhooks to trigger real-time deployments whenever a commit's pushed. That facilitates really frequent and consistent updates and just makes everything a little bit easier. So in Jira, the entire life cycle of an issue from creation to closure is tracked. And so that provides us really clear data we've not always had on the lead time for what the changes are doing. And Bitbucket complements that by tracking the time from the first commit in a repository to its eventual deployment, giving you a really comprehensive review of, that development velocity and how quickly you're moving. Jira also monitors a lot of issues related to, post-deployment incidents. So it helps you effectively monitor and categorize those issues that arise post-deployment, as they always inevitably do, which really helps you measure the change failure rate. And then at the same time, Bitbucket is going to provide insights into the specific commits that may have led to failures or rollbacks, enabling really targeted improvements. Jira is also a really excellent tool for logging downtime and tracking those recovery efforts, which are really essential in calculating the mean time to recover. With Bitbucket, teams can really quickly identify those problematic commits and perform necessary rollbacks, and that reduces that recovery time and minimizes that downtime impact as well. So by leveraging these two tools together, you can actually monitor these Dora metrics effectively, and you can also take really proactive steps to improve them and make them better the next time. And this integration is really great. It just ensures that your DevOps practices are, they're operational, but they're also optimized for whatever the improvement is that you're trying to take care of. So we do have a case study for our company working with a client. They were a medical technology manufacturer and they needed a new software solution that fit their needs. They already used Bitbucket and Jira, and they wanted something that could analyze code and be integrated into that practice that was already there. So SonarQube Cloud was actually the solution. So we had 4 hours a month of DevOps application management that we were able to use with this client just to maintain what we have already done. So after implementing SonarQube Cloud, which is pretty seamless in like terms of Bitbucket and Jira, you can actually link it to pull requests, make it run every single time that somebody is trying to push something into that main branch of any repository, which helps, detect those vulnerabilities, those code smells, whatever it is, before it's put into production and not during. They also offer a really great extensive analysis on what's already in there. So we took care of that. And we actually had an 800% improvement in deployment frequency, and we saved over 40 hours in code maintenance for the developers, which was just, I mean, outstanding, and they were really, really happy with it. Okay, so last, we're going to talk about some Bitbucket best practices. Not everybody uses all of these, but they are definitely your best practices and your best bets for making sure everything is seamless and moving through effectively. So implementing a really robust branching strategy like Git flow helps to manage those different development stages. And enforcing pull requests is going to help ensure that all those code changes are reviewed and validated and improve that code quality. You can also automate with Bitbucket pipelines, automate those build and deployment processes. That's going to save you a lot of time and also reduce that human error risk, which everybody has at some point. It makes those releases a lot smoother and more dependable. You can actually use webhooks for integration, like we mentioned before, which are really great for things like Jira and Bamboo because they can just enhance that workflow automation and make everything synchronize across every single tool. You also want to make sure you're doing branch permissions. I know we talked about branching strategies. This is a little bit different. Just helps protect critical branches. Like, most people would want to protect their main branch, maybe their development branch, maybe you have a staging branch, and use that IP whitelisting to secure that repository access so that not anybody can just wander in and take a look at your code. However, it's also really important to recognize solutions where Bitbucket might not be a good fit. So as we all know, GitLab, GitHub, they're both a little bit more robust and they allow you to go a little bit higher in customized environments. And sometimes if your team requires that, you need really extensive customization or you're dealing with huge code bases, you're probably going to encounter limitations in Bitbucket. If your organization has really stringent compliance requirements that necessitate an on-prem setup, evaluating Bitbucket's data centers capabilities and complexities is definitely crucial, but it also might not work for that. Bitbucket is just really great for small teams and large teams with like small to medium-sized code bases, and really just helps manage those environments unless they're super complex. And last but not least, so you can actually, if you don't know much about Bitbucket Cloud, you can learn on Atlassian. They have a really great tutorial on their website to just learn everything about it. And if you're new to Git, this is a fantastic place to start. And you can actually evaluate Bitbucket Cloud in the process while you're doing it.
Thank you, Darla. That was a lot, and I appreciate all the detail there. Hopefully, you've learned some of the stuff that Darla has laid out today in terms of Git-based benefits and using a Git-based system, different solutions within Bitbucket, both the cloud and the on-prem components, and how Jira and Bitbucket integration can actually accelerate delivery of software and how to measure that success too, so you always continually get better. So thank you, Darla. Appreciate all that feedback and information. In terms of SPK, I just want to give a little bit of info on who we are and what we do. We're a now 22-year-old business based in Scotts Valley, California. Most of our customers are choosing to work with us for pretty long periods of time. Our average customer length is over 8 years, and we support a lot of different tools and solutions, including the Atlassian stack. We're an Atlassian Gold solution partner. And as Darla mentioned, we're partners with a lot of different best-in-class tools, and we've tried to align ourselves not only to best practices, but those best-in-class tools, which is why we have this robust network of partners that we utilize. And just a quick overview of kind of the four things that we really try to deliver to our customers and align to their strategic goals and initiatives. And that's trying to get their products to market more quickly in a cost-effective manner, ensuring all the compliance requirements that they have, and being able to help them put out an exceptionally quality product. So just keep in mind when you're looking at solutions, this is really where we excel and how we help people. So that wraps up our presentation component of the presentation today, the webinar, but we do have a ton of opportunity to go through questions and answer if you have any. I do see a couple in here already. So Darla, I have a question here. Why use Bitbucket and not some other better Git related tools out there?
So I went into this a little bit, and it's true that there's a lot of capable Git platforms. Bitbucket, like I said, shines for teams that are already using Atlassian tools like Jira and Confluence, just because it's got really tight, like native integration, and that means developers can move seamlessly from your issue tracking to your code to your deployment. Just going to help you keep that traceability and that context intact. Bitbucket Pipelines also offers that built-in CI/CD, which it reduces that need for a third-party tool, makes it a little bit simpler for the developer, especially like I said, if you're using a smaller code base or a smaller team. So better is a little bit subjective, but Bitbucket definitely excels at what it does. Creating that connected end-to-end DevOps workflow with the Atlassian ecosystem. So definitely, if you're using those tools already, it's the best thing for you.
Gotcha. Another one here. Why would you implement a manual trigger for different environments? Could you use different branches to deploy to different environments?
So manual triggers are helpful for a lot of different reasons. It depends on your situation. If you want to control when your code is moving to a specific environment, like your staging or production, if you have like a regulated industry or you have customers that are going to need to access production at that time, say that, your code requires that you restart something or whatever, if you need to coordinate with your QA or if you just need approval, it reduces that risk of accidental deployments, so you can get everything done all the way up to production. And then when you're actually ready to do it or when you have the time to do it after hours, then you can go ahead and click the button. If you could use different branches to deploy to different environments. So yes, you could. Bitbucket Pipelines does have a branch-based deployment rule function, so you can deploy to your development, say, like if you want to deploy your development branch to your staging and then your main to your production automatically, you can do that. You can also create, say you have 3 different environments that aren't necessarily develop and production, but just 3 different environments. You could create a branch for each one of them and then only deploy to that one. A lot of teams are going to use a mix, so automated for dev staging completely, and then have that manual trigger for production. It's just all about finding whatever balance you need for, speed and control for whatever works for your team.
Personally, I like a manual deployment to production. I
Me
want
too.
everybody to be aware that we're clicking the button. Okay, and another one here. From a security perspective, is there a way to require code reviews before merging or restrict branch permissions?
Yeah, yeah. Bitbucket offers really strong branch permission controls. I know we didn't go through a ton of it just because it was a quick demo, but you can require you can force it to have a pull request approved before you merge into a specific branch. You can enforce that certain people have to have a code review and they have to approve before it could even be merged or before a second person can approve it. And you can actually block merges until all of your builds and your checks pass. So, say you want the pipeline to finish completely before it's able to be merged, you can do that. And you can also restrict like who can push directly to protected branches. So if you protect your main branch and make it so that, only X person can push to it, or hopefully nobody should really be pushing directly to production. But it depends on your environment. I'm not going to tell other developers what to do. And then you can also use those IP whitelisting and two-factor features. Bitbucket definitely helps those teams bake security into their workflow. So yeah, there's a way to do all of those things. You can customize it pretty decently.
I don't see any other questions in the Q&A or the chat component at the moment, so we'll give it just a quick second, see if anybody has any last questions. Not seeing any, not seeing any. I believe we're done, Darla. Thank you for all your time and attention and what you shared today. Really appreciate it.
Absolutely, anytime.
And for those in attendance or watching the on-demand version of this, um, if for those of you who are watching live and you want the recording, you'll have the recording in your inbox. We guarantee it in 10 business days. Usually it'll be in your inbox well before that, but guaranteed in 10 business days. And be sure to register for future webinars. Hopefully we'll have Darla on talking more CI/CD and Dora metrics in the future. But thanks for your time today, Darla, and we'll hopefully see everybody next time. Thank you.
Bye, guys.